It's frightening to believe that the ghost girl from popular Japanese horror movies like The Ring and The Grudge is actually based off of real-life events that took place in the Edo period of Japan in the 17th century. The story of the death of Oiwa is actually one of the most famous ghost stories in all of Japan. The ghost story of Yotsuya has been told in countless variations inside theaters, television adaptations, and Hollywood movies. Here is the true story that happened just over 300 years ago in the Edo period of Japan. Oiwa was married to a samurai named Iemon. It was not a happy marriage, for Iemon was a wasteful man and a thief. One day, Oiwa decided to leave her husband and return to her family home. Iemon followed her, but was stopped by Oiwa's father, Yotsuya Samon. Samon knew of Iemon's misdeeds, that he had stolen money from his employer, and he demanded that Iemon divorced Oiwa. Iemon drew his sword and murdered Samon. Iemon returned to Oiwa and lied that a stranger had killed her father on the road. He begged her to reconcile, and he promised to avenge her father's murder. Sometime after that, Oiwa became pregnant and gave birth to Iemon's son. Times were hard and they had little money. Oiwa became very sickly after giving birth, and Iemon grew resentful of Oiwa. Next to their home lived a rich doctor named Ito Kihei. He had a beautiful granddaughter named Oome. Oome was instantly attracted to Iemon and wanted to marry him. The doctor loved his granddaughter and conspired to help her marry Iemon. He prescribed a medication to Oiwa to help her recover from her sickness, but in reality, it was poison, which horribly disfigured her face. Seeing Oiwa's scarred face, Iemon's resentment turned into hatred. Afterwards, Kihei suggested that Iemon divorced Oiwa and marry his granddaughter instead. If he were to marry Oome, all the family's wealth could be inherited to him. Iemon was so disgusted by Oiwa's face, and Ueme was so young and attractive that he agreed. Iemon began to pawn Oiwa's possessions, including her kimono, her clothes, and even their son's clothes, to have enough money to marry Oome. Because he needed a legitimate reason to divorce his wife, Iemon hired his friend Takuetsu to rape Oiwa so that he could accuse her of infidelity. On a prearranged night when Iemon was out of the house, Takuetsu entered and approached Oiwa. Upon seeing her face, he was so frightened that he abandoned his orders. Takuetsu explained Iemon's plan to Oiwa and then showed her a mirror. Oiwa had not known how hideous she was, and when she saw her reflection, she was horrified. She tried to cover her disfigurement by brushing her hair over the front of her face. But when she touched her hair, it fell out into large, bloody clumps. Oiwa went mad. She grabbed a nearby sword and punctured her own throat. As Oiwa laid on the floor bleeding to death, she repeatedly cursed Iemon's name until she couldn't breathe anymore. Oiwa's body was discovered by Iemon's servant, Kohei, and when Kohei delivered the news to Iemon, instead of becoming upset, Iemon was overjoyed. Kohei became suspicious of Iemon, but before he could do anything, Iemon murdered Kohei. He nailed his body, as well as Oiwa's, to a door and disposed of them in the river. Afterwards, he made up a lie, saying that Kohei and Oiwa had been sleeping together, and then he was finally free to marry Oome. Oiwa's curse did not take long to take effect. On his wedding night to Oome, Iemon had trouble sleeping. He rolled over in the bed and saw right next to his face the horrible, disfigured face of Oiwa's ghost. He grabbed his sword and slashed out at the ghost, but just then, the illusion ended. Iemon saw that it was not Oiwa he had cut, but Oome, his new bride, who laid dead on the floor next to him. Terrified, Ieamon ran next door to seek his new father-in-law's help. However, when he got there, he was confronted by the ghost of Kohei, his assistant that he murdered. Once again, Ieamon slashed his sword, but no sooner had he done that, the illusion ended, and he saw his new father-in-law's body dead on the floor. Ieamon fled into the night, but Oiwa's vengeful spirit pursued him. Everywhere he went, Oiwa's ghost was there. Her ruined face haunted his dreams, her terrible voice crying out to him for vengeance. She even appeared to him in the paper lanterns that lit the way. Eventually, Ieamon ran into the mountains, where he could hide in an isolated cabin, but Oiwa followed him there too. Haunted by Oiwa's ghost, no longer able to tell nightmare from reality, Ieamon descended into madness. The real Oiwa died in 1636, and it's rumored that her vengeful spirit still haunts the places she lived, as well as those who perform her story. Mysterious disasters and deaths occurring around a number of productions, including theater, films, and television adaptations, have been blamed on the curse of Oiwa's ghost. There have been numerous attempts to appease her angry spirit. A small shrine and a temple dedicated to Oiwa were built on the ruins of her family's house in Yotsuya. After a fire destroyed the shrine in 1879, Oiwa's shrine was moved to another part of Tokyo. The shrine, though, was once again destroyed by the bombings of World War II, and after the war, her new shrine as well as the original location in Yotsuya were rebuilt. A gravestone at Moyoji in Sugamo, Tokyo is widely believed to be Oiwa's actual grave. And to this day, it's customary for actors and crew who are putting on a production of Yotsuya Kaidan to visit Oiwa's grave and pay their respects. So, that's the true story of the ghost girl you see in so many of these Japanese horror movies. If you like this story, go ahead and leave a like down below and hit the subscribe button. And as always guys, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.